Greetings to all. Hope you all are doing fine. So, Jacqueline, can we begin with a quick yin yoga session?
Yes. So today I've been thinking a lot about the word yin because I was looking forward to satsang here and now all day since I woke up, and I was thinking about the many different translations that I have come across over the years of the word yin in English. And I think the one that resonates with me the most, and please feel free to share if you've heard other translations, but the one that I come across most often is yin, meaning to receive, but with the added element of not demanding something. So receiving without asking is one of the most beautiful translations of this concept of yin. And how that is woven into yoga as I practice it and as I was taught it by my teacher is this very gentle way of turning within oneself and allowing body sensations, allowing thoughts, and allowing feelings to simply happen or arise as we observe all of this happening within ourselves. It's a chance for us to tune in without a strict or rule-oriented discipline, which makes yin yoga a little different from other kinds of yoga. So one element of yin that has always resonated with me, and I'd like to bring this into our sitting meditation this evening before the talk, and that is the idea of not forcing oneself and not forcing modifications in our environment. And why are we allowing this to happen? Well, for me, it's clear through personal experience that forcing changes in myself or on others or in my environment has not created peacefulness within. And at some point, the peace that I found within was like a sanctuary to me. And that happened without effort, by grace. And now I'm simply here to share. So what I'd like to do tonight is sit with you while we turn within. That doesn't need to be forced. It just means allowing the inner eye to focus inward. So we don't compare. We can register what's going on around us, but we don't necessarily need to take it into our own body-mind system. It's a lot like watching clouds. Clouds come and go, and so can our environmental stimuli. So I like to do this by sitting in what's called hero's pose. This is Vajrasana, but any comfortable seated position or standing, if it's more comfortable for you, will work. And we can start. And again, no discipline is required for this, but I simply enjoy starting and the feeling of being in good company by chanting. And tonight I'd like to chant Om once, and I'll follow that with Shanti 3 times. And after that, I will be silent for 5 minutes with you as we allow ourselves to turn inward. So I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm allowing my breath to just move in and out naturally. I'm not counting my breath, and I'm not holding it. I'm not doing what's called box breathing or any kind of breath discipline right now. I'm just allowing it to be as it is. So I'm going to take an in-breath and then begin our chanting. And then we'll move directly into the silent sitting together. Oh. Shanti. 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 Thank you so much for sharing this presence with me tonight. Namaste. And I'll pass the torch now to Jagjot for our talk.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was beautiful. Since we are on the topic of non-forced action, I would like to bring in a concept. And the concept is that the energy, now I'm talking in terms of energy, that means motion, movement. It has three gunas, three characteristics. One is tamas, the second is rajas, and third is sattva. Now, I change my concept a little bit, and my own interpretation is that sattva is basically a balance between rajas and tamas. Because tamas, as it is made out to be evil or bad, and rajas also has a bad reputation, but it's not bad all the time. Tamas is also not bad all the time. So, a balance between these two attributes automatically brings in sattva, which is actually not lost, which is never lost, because sattva is the base. Sattva is the substratum. Sattva is harmony, which is never lost. You know, when I was in school, I was always told by my fellow classmates, schoolmates, that you have to grab every opportunity that comes your way. And that is the way to succeed. And somehow I wasn't convinced because I was too lazy. The tamas was higher at that stage. Because as it is, I was an introvert and I didn't like attention on myself. So I would sit at the back seat where nobody sees me and I just would be lost in my own dream world. And that was actually quite convenient for me. And I would spend hours in that dream world. But I was told that, you know, a little bit of rajas, which is activity, excitement, is required. Because tamas, which is inertia, laziness, is bad. But somehow that didn't settle well. And I remember when I was appearing for my engineering exams, I had qualified for an engineering college and I was standing in the queue to get my medical done. And my father was accompanying me. So it was June and hot summer month, and the line was very long. And my father was sitting under the shade of a tree. And I was standing on the line, and I somehow left the line and came to my dad and sat with him. And I said, Dad, let them all just pass. I'll go in the end. And, you know, there was this gentleman who comes up to my father and tells him that, look at this, my son is standing in the line. And then he started talking about himself, where he would say that, look at this, we have worked so hard in our life to achieve this and that. Now that my son is standing there, he will get to know the value of life. He will get to know how hard it was for us. And my dad kept nodding, and he didn't reply much, but kept nodding. But his point was that my son is in the line and sweating it out in the scorching heat of summer months. Why is your son sitting here in the shade? But my concept was that by the time they are all done, even the examiners would be tired and I would be free early. So I sat in the shade, had water and drinks, and enjoyed myself with dad, with my father. And when the whole thing was done, I went and apologized for being a little late. And I was free within 5-10 minutes because the examiners were themselves tired. So all I had to do was just tender apology for being a little late. And the whole process was comfortable for me. This idea didn't settle well with the gentleman who was with my father because he believed that one has to struggle. Yes, if we really want to achieve wealth, material wealth, we do have to struggle. We have to put force. And we can do that. Some of us are really skilled at doing that, putting force and getting whatever we want in life. But the question is, even after we get all that we want, are we really at peace? That is the main question. And when we are young, we don't give too much thought to this question because there is this whole energy, this rajasic energy, the activity based energy that we have to prove ourselves. We have to prove ourselves to the world. And because there is physical strength and psychological stamina at that age, we think that by using force, we can achieve whatever we want. And yes, we can achieve. I did achieve a lot of positions through effort, but did they bring me peace? I have worked in the corporate sector for over a decade, and I never got even a single shred of peace in those 13 and a half years because there was always an emptiness that haunted me. Because once I finished college and stepped into the work world, I forgot to balance myself. I forgot the balance between rajas and tamas, and I went for complete activity. And this is the message given in the modern world: hustle, work, make more money, And the promise is that when you do that, everything will be aligned, everything will be better. With money will come conveniences, and they do come. It will give comfort. That also happens. People will respect you. That also may happen. But the question is, despite having all of that, does it bring peace? Does it bring peace, or are we just given the next step? Okay, you have achieved this milestone in life. Now you work harder and achieve the next milestone in life. Today, let's say you are the project manager and you are in your midlife, you are happy, you're reasonably, financially doing well, taking care of your family and everything. But then the next aspiration is waiting for you, which is now I want to become the vice president or the general manager or the CEO. Or if you're doing a business, it can be anything. Like today, I have $100,000. Now I want to make $500,000. Within 5 years, I want to make $1 million, or so and so. It just goes on and on. My point being, when the mind becomes rajasic, that is, it operates with the energy of chase. It sometimes forgets why it started in the first place. With what intention was that movement started in the first place? And that intention was to experience peace and happiness. Because deep down, all of us desire peace and happiness. But the mind forgets, and mind begins a chase. And then it is stuck on a hamster wheel, just goals after goals after goal. And not just in the material world, but also in the spiritual world, this can happen. In fact, it happens more brutally in the spiritual world. Because spiritual world, we also create hierarchies. Low level seeker, medium seeker, advanced seeker, and finally, the enlightened one. So enlightened one is like the CEO. But the only thing is, the enlightened one is poor. CEO has money. So Ramesh Balsekar said, might as well become the CEO than trying to become an enlightened one. At least you're going to enjoy your $1 million. I really get surprised by this term seeker or follower for that matter, because actually these words don't make much sense to me. Just like a seeker, a follower, two are categorized. I'm a staunch follower, or I'm a weak follower. I just, casually listen to satsang and a lot of the boring stuff that Jagjot speaks about. But you see, all of these are categorizations. So we fall into the same trap when we turn inwards into the path of self knowledge. We think that there is a destination, and that while we are on the path, we keep we keep our energy anxious all the time that once I achieve this understanding, all my troubles will be gone. But that thought itself keeps the mind restless. Nisargadatta Maharaj said, the road is the goal. Jiddu Krishnamurti said, truth is the pathless land. But what happens when we understand this whole situation? When there is a knowing that no matter how much effort I put, either to achieve something materially or spiritually, the effort by itself prevents me from experiencing that peace that I seek. Yes, I can acquire material resources through effort. I can work hard, harder than others, and I can make a lot of money, or I can become a CEO or vice president or a successful businessman or a businesswoman or anything. But is that effort bringing me peace? Similarly, I can become an advanced spiritual seeker through effort. I can become very knowledgeable through effort. I can read all the scriptures, I can learn it, I can memorize all the verses. But does that bring me peace? And this is where masters like Ramana Maharishi strike at the head of the nail. And they say, look at this eye. Look at this eye that believes itself to be separate from the rest. Look at this I that says, I am on this journey and I want to become something or I want to unbecome something. It is this very movement that creates stress and anxiety. If the nature of this movement is understood, and it is not just an intellectual understanding, but the understanding of the heart. If the nature of this movement is understood, if the suffering associated with this is understood, then automatically this movement comes to a halt. Now, it doesn't mean that life becomes easy. One still experiences all challenges in life. But the peace, the sattva, the harmony is never lost because there is never any separation with the other, the so perceived other. Sattva is the breakdown of the subject object split. Subject being me and object being other, any other. But till we are trying to make ourselves better in some way, make ourselves whole in some way using effort, we will always experience resistance. We will always experience suffering. But let me clarify what I mean by effort. If the movement is in one direction, that is effortless movement. But if there are two opposing forces, let's say I want to become an artist. I want to become an artist. I have the required skills. I want to become a successful businessman or businesswoman, and I have the required skills. But the other side of me says that I am unworthy. The other side says that I'm not meant for this. And I'm being pulled in two opposite directions. Or it can be fear of what the society will say, what my loved ones will say, what my friends, my family. This is effort because it requires resistance. It is like walking against the current of the river. Such a mind will not experience peace because the mind is divided, it is fragmented. But when the mind sees the futility of putting effort, when it sees that all its effort is creating is suffering, then it gives up and completely surrenders to the natural flow of life. And in that surrendering, the effort becomes effortless. Or what I think in Tao is called Wu Wei. I think it is, right? It is movement in one direction. That means I still, okay, let me explain this using Ramesh's concept, which is, I think, which will be easier to understand. So Ramesh says that the mind has two aspects. One aspect is related to creativity, which is work, and the other is related to thinking. These are two very different things. So he calls it the working mind and the thinking mind. Now, the working mind is the creative mind, which is like, for example, if you have to go on a trip, the working mind will tell you to pack your things properly, check the fuel in the car, or get the plane tickets, or whatever is whatever steps are required for that particular process. That is the working mind. Thinking mind. Thinking mind is the effort mind that will say, oh, what happens if the plane crashes? What happens if I meet an accident? What happens if I don't get a proper hotel booking? What happens if the services are not nice? What if I lose my health? What if? You see, that is the thinking mind. That is the resistance. That is effort. Working mind is one movement. It does not think about the outcome. It is completely detached from the outcome. It is just focused on the task which is to be performed at a given moment. When I was standing in that line in the heat of summer, my working mind was activated at that point, and my thinking mind was completely dropped. A lot of my peers who were standing in the line were highly anxious because they thought that if they move away from the line, they will somehow miss some opportunity or will be questioned by the examiners. For me, that was not at all a concern because I was completely willing to accept that even if they reject me, that's fine. I will go home and rent a VHS and watch a movie, 90s movie. I'm talking about the 90s and the early 2000s. And we used to get things, we used to get the VHS, VCR, it was called, on rent. And I was planning for that. And I would have enjoyed that too. So my working mind was active at that point. So I thought, why not just wait in the shade of the tree and let everybody pass and do whatever is to be done? And there was a second component too, that is destiny. And the destiny in my concept is that what is meant to happen will happen. So I did believe even at that point, but I didn't have this understanding, but I did believe even at that point that if I meant to clear this round of physical examination, then I will do. Then it'll happen for me. And my standing in the line and sweating in the heat won't make any difference. So at that moment, at that given moment, whatever my working mind was doing, I completely surrendered to that. And there was no trace of thinking mind. So things became effortless naturally. But when we have fear, the thinking mind comes into picture and it starts pushing. Do better than the other. Otherwise, you will be left behind. So, thinking mind by nature is divisive. It creates this separation between me and the other. And this separation is suffering. Now, when we are young, we are generally very caught up in life's game. But then at some point, the game gets revealed. For some of us, it is early. For others, it is late. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, actually. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, he said, faster is not better. That means early realization, early spiritual understanding is not necessarily better. But the whole point is that effort is misunderstood. And there is a beautiful verse, beautiful poetry by Gorakhnath, which says, सहज मिला सो दूध बराबर, मांग लिया सो पानी, छीन लिया सो रक्त बराबर, बोले गोरख बाणी. Which is सहज मिला सो दूध barabar. That means what you get with easefulness is like milk. Without demanding, when you are in complete sattva, what you get is milk. Mang liya so pani. When you ask, you get water. Because when you ask, there is a component of effort in that. It may be small, but there is a component of effort. So, mang liya so pani. If you ask, you get water. छीन लिया so रक्त बराबर. If you snatch, then you get blood. Now, this is doership. This is excessive force. Then you get blood. Bole Gorakh Bani, says Gorakhnath. So that state of Sahaj living, that means living with easefulness, relaxation, without stress and anxiety. It comes with the balance of the rajas and the tamas. When there is no demand, when there is no effort. Okay, so you can ask questions or you can share something if you'd like. Just raise your hand and I will unmute you. Yes, Vishal.
Very nice to meet you, Jagjot and Jacqueline.
Nice to
Thank
see
you
you too. How have you been?
for being awesome.
Oh,
Thank you
great,
for asking.
great, great.
So, two things I'll just maybe reflect upon briefly, and then I'll invite you to just comment from your side if you have any context or perspective. First, I had spoken to this person, Guru Pashupati, couple of months back, and I was really excited to tell him about my journey and what all I'm doing and what my quote unquote kind of goal is. And first thing he said right off the bat was, dude, there is too much rajas. You need to you have to relax. Put some tamas in this process because you're kind of moving in one direction. And then he did talk about the same concepts. That's why I smiled when he said it. He said sattva is basically appropriateness. When you understand when to use rajas, when to use tamas, but at any given point in time, you're effortless, you're in the flow. That is sattvic, living. So I was really thrilled when I kind of heard you, talk about that. Um, the piece I'll just say, and then I'll hand it back to you for any, reflection. When there are extreme adversities that hit us in life, that knock us from our so-called perceived positions in life, whatever they are, it is humiliating, it is humbling, but it's a very short opening life gives us to really understand what are we chasing and what the futility of that is. So, if I lose my job, and I was in a very good position in a company. And vast majority of the people who would quote unquote respect me and ask me to be their mentor and so forth suddenly abandon you. That's such a beautiful thing to
Yes.
experience because all of a sudden you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whatever I held so precious and so important in my life basically comes down to this. It's not me, it's the role that I'm playing that is respected, not the individual. And the you keep peeling that, onion layer by layer. You strike at the heart of this problem, fear. But to me, like the judgment is the underlying cause of fear. It's like when you live in constant judgment of, I want to be here, but I'm not there, my perception is opposite of what I want to be. And I think that's ultimately what kind of continues to perpetuate the suffering. Out of judgment is born fear, right? And out of fear is born all this effort and doership. And then we start to condition ourselves in really weird ways, however we want to get that, whatever we are chasing by force, etc. So I feel that the more and more you watch this whole phenomenon, and more that momentum of judgment reduces in life, you start to move towards kind of more effortless being, etc. So that was just kind of my revelation. I'll just hand it back to you for any reflection.
Beautiful. Yes, actually, this has been my experience. This has been my father's experience too. Like he served all his life as a senior uh, government servant. And when he would get posted from one department to the other, there was a during that transitioning period, actually the staff, which would all the time be saluting him and be at his beck and call, would stand on his head to say that just get up from the chair. And we would pack our stuff and move from one location to the other. And when he passed away, I saw that whole thing. Uh, you know, all the senior, all his friends and all the senior people who he associated with, nobody came to us. Nobody inquired as to what we are doing, and it was a difficult time for us because at that time. My brother was not working, and I was the only one who was working, and things were difficult. And I had a family, and to take care of. So uh, it was difficult and challenging, and there was no help. And that is when one sees life's futility. And then there were some financial challenges as well. And just I think 6 to 7 months after my dad passed away, I lost my job too. And again, it was a very difficult, very challenging circumstance. But I say, thank God that it happened. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been this opening, this realization that pain comes accompanied with pleasure. It's the happiness comes accompanied with unhappiness. There is no splitting the two in this earthly realm. There is no splitting of duality. So no matter what grand plans we make for life, about money, about relationships, about anything in general, they come accompanied with equal amount of pain. And I mean in everything, even in the closest of relationships. They all come with pain. And acceptance of this duality is basically recognition of peace. And the thing is, regarding effort, I would just say that it's not that we have to change anything. It's just the observation, it's just awareness. That itself brings about this change. Because when one sees that despite my best efforts to control and manipulate life. Nothing is working as per my expectations. Then at some point, my mind turns inwards and questions, who is this me? What exactly is this me? What is its nature? And then it becomes apparent that this me is a flux. It's a constantly changing entity that cannot be satiated through any achievement, material or spiritual. That is when the deep knowing happens. And yes, this concept about rajas and tamas, they are considered generally there is a perception that these are bad. Especially tamas has a very bad reputation. And yes, when it is dominant, like when the tamas in body is dominant, then it does create some problem. But it is there for a purpose. And the purpose we will never know because we think from our conditioned mind. And we give it different names. Sometimes we call it depression. Sometimes we call it um, laziness or tiredness. We give it different names, but there is a reason for that. There is an energetic reason for that, and body and mind, the psychosomatic apparatus is undergoing a change, and we will never be able to make sense of this change. Some people spend sometimes 2 years, 3 years, or even a decade in that state, but then all of a sudden they find their creativity fueled like fire. So it may seem that they are wasting time, but actually the body is undergoing a process. Now that it doesn't mean that one should not talk about it, or uh, try make some effort from their end, but the whole thing is that that is happening and there is a purpose behind it, and we will truly never know what the purpose is. And similar is the case with the rajasic thing. Even the rajasic, which let's say, let's just loosely put it as anxiety. The rajas is also constantly pointing one back to that source of pain, which is peace actually. It is showing, if it is happening in your life and it is showing up over and over again at every small step and situation, then that is an indication. Slow down, relax. And sometimes we do not understand, and it takes a hit on the body to make us understand. It can be little, it can be a little brutal sometimes. But if there is awareness and one can really understand that the balance between these two is harmony, then there is no chase to achieve harmony. There is no force, there is no effort to achieve anything or to become or unbecome anything. It's just this idea that if I will become this, then I will be happy. We never really question that. What exactly do we mean by that happiness? What is that happiness? We just say that you'll be happy in life. We mistake happiness for a state.
Shriyam talks about how this conditioning happens from early age, where when a child learns that crying is rewarded by getting what I was crying for, that's when slowly the mind starts to condition itself wrongfully that possessing something brings me happiness. And then making an effort to possess that will bring me happiness. And over time, we associate it that way. If I possess, then I'll be happy. And we never end up questioning it after we grow up.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't even say that it's wrong. I will say that it simply happens. The flow of life is such that it happens. And the more we accumulate, materially, spiritually, or otherwise, every accumulation has its charge. That means it has a cost. And when that is let go of, the natural consequence of that is just peace. So, yes, life happens. Is nothing right or wrong about it. It just happens. And just like conditioning happens, even the other conditioning also happens. The conditioning is that let me get more and I will be happy. I'm not talking about survival here. I'm just talking about the mind's conceptualization that if I have this much, then I will be happy. But the new different conditioning is that my happiness has got nothing to do with what I am accumulating. Happiness is here and now, simply as this, whatever is arising. Happiness is the breakdown of the subject object split. Happiness is the end of separation between me and the other, or sattva. Okay. Yes, Raghu. Hello. Raghu, you're not audible. Can you just check your.
I was double muted.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Namaskaram, Jackie.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram.
Last week I was like sick with chicken pox. I was not able to come on video, but now I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. Hope
Uh,
you're feeling better now.
yeah, there was like lots of scars, but now it's been not having that body consciousness, but still I have to work. I have to go outside, so that's the reason I have to be working from home.
Okay.
I'm here in Poland. This temperature, I mean, we are like 4.5 hours behind India time zone, so that is
Oh.
also one of the things that I couldn't catch up at the right time.
Oh, you are in Poland.
Yes, I'm based out in Coimbatore. I traveled
Okay.
to Tiruvannamalai, Ramana Ashrama. I was staying there for a few days, and then now I'm back to Poland where I work in Cisco. Uh, so
Okay. Okay. So you're working with the IT?
yeah, Cisco. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Been so I have a question. We were discussing about Rajas and Tamas. So these are three gunas, but then there is also the nirguna, right? That's okay. So the first state is like now we are in the awakening state. Now we can talk. We are aware. We see each other, and then we go to sleep, and then there is a dream projection happening again. That too, it's been witnessed. So that's the second state. And then we go into a deep sleep where there is a blankness, and that the blankness has also been witnessed. Uh, so from at that point, there is no individual existence saying we have a. I mean, I don't remember I'm Raghu. I don't remember I'm Indian or an American. I don't have anything in that. But when we wake up, everything comes back again, right? Like, the vasanas, which they call, like the personality starts to come. So, uh, my question is like, from where does this starts to appear again? So when we keep on having that attention towards that I, it subsides, but then again, at some point, you get the anger back, you get all your emotions back at some point.
Yes.
Uh, so this particular thing, talking about the nirguna,
Yeah.
and it also, how does the ego arises once again?
So again, all we can do is just discuss in terms of concepts. And the concept here is that The nirguna and the guna is actually one. And nirguna is basically sattva, because sattva doesn't have a form. Sattva, sattva is not the blankness. Sattva is the underlying substratum. Now, this is my concept only, okay? The flow of life, as we see, happens in such a way that the entity which is in any of the three states, for example, Jagrat, Swap, or Sushupti, okay? Jagrat is the waking state. The entity in the waking state will consider itself to be real and will consider the Swapna and the Sushupti as lighter, right? But you see what happens when you're dreaming. How much importance do you pay to the waking state or to the deep sleep? When you're dreaming, you don't even think about deep sleep
Yeah,
or
the
the
mind, the
or the
mind
way
keeps us even at that point. The mind doesn't know that
doesn't
there is
even
a dream
know.
happening. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, in deep sleep, there is no question of thinking anything because the mind is completely inert in that. And so the interplay is between these two states, the dream state, the swapna, and the jagrat state and the waking state. Now we alternate between these two, and the entity that springs up in each respective states considers itself to be real and the other state as the dream. So now it may so happen that when you are in dream, you may borrow some elements from the waking state. For example, you may remember some work that you really have to do, maybe some official work or some work related to family. You know, you can say, oh, I had to I had to help my son with his homework or my daughter with his something. And you may bring that to dream. But you see, the dream is more real to you than that. If
Yes.
that happens, it's fine. If it doesn't happen, you don't even bother. So the thing is that this entity itself is what Ramana Maharishi is bringing attention to. He's saying, just look at this, just observe what it's doing. We only ask this question when we are in the waking state, that why does this happen? But we must also understand what is the motivation behind this question. And generally, the motivation is that I want to change something. There is some seeking within me. You see, it's very subtle. It is very subtle. It is like, and you know, I can just put it in a very I can just put it in a very subtle way that my existence is painful. This is a fundamental question we all face. Whether we like it or not, this is my existence here is painful. And somehow I'm trying to find out why this interplay of states even happens. In other words, why creation itself? But you see, here's the thing, the masters would say that the created object cannot know why, cannot know the reason. We can give concepts, there are a lot of concepts, there are spiritual concepts as well, but we will truly never know the reason why. And when we are at peace with this fact, we completely surrender. We just accept this interplay. So the fundamental question is, who is this me that thinks that the existence is painful, or it claims that it is my existence? This is the main question. Why am I here? Why am I here? And then we, even if by the grace of God we go deeper, then we come to the most fundamental question, which is, who am I? Who really am I? Now, when this question becomes the only focus, then all of these questions start disappearing. We start accepting the life's flow the way it is.
How to gain strength in this path? Because like you may, I mean, for example, I may have an attention uh, problems. For example, I may not have a full concentration on it. I may dissipate and then go for, I mean, oh, yeah, the cricket match is going on. Yeah, well, my team is playing. So, you just have that, and then again you come back, oh, and then you go back to your sadhana. But in each and every activity you do, there is a new I coming in, right?
Yes.
So that's another problem. I did a meditation. I did yoga. I did 20 minutes of that. I did 20 minutes of that on, I did evening sadhana. So for everywhere, there is I coming in. So this is
Yes.
like, it's a break and then okay, I did that. Now I'm going and watch India, New Zealand cricket match. And then
Yes. Yes. You know, that is basically effort because the I is trying to achieve something through this movement. And when it does a little bit of sadhana, maybe experiences a little bit of peace through meditation, through japa, or through any other activity, let's say, it becomes content for some time. And then it's like, okay, let me now watch television or, engage in some other activity. But then the pain of existence comes back.
Mm.
The pain that I'm still existing, it comes back. And then it again starts the same frenzy. So this is what I call effort, forcefulness, that I'm still trying to use some concept to eliminate this pain. And what the concept says is that don't try to fight this pain. Just let it arise. Like Jacqueline was saying in the beginning, what she was doing is basically bringing the attention inwards. Now, inwards is just a concept. There is no such thing as inward, outward. It is just a concept. But she says that bring the attention inward and let whatever arise naturally. So when that happens, life itself becomes, the flow of life itself becomes a meditation. And then an awareness is experienced where you don't even have to formally sit in any posture or practice anything. Now, it doesn't mean that we cannot meditate. We can have meditation as an activity and it has its benefits. But other than that, the fundamental sadhana, which is who is this? Who am I? That is the fundamental sadhana. It happens 24/7. It happens all the time. Because at every flow of life, when life throws challenges, sickness, loss of life, loss of loved one, natural calamities, whatever it may be, every time this question comes up, who am I? And this becomes the sadhana. We don't escape from it. We simply attend to it. The I attends to itself. And that is what Ramana Maharishi says, that when that happens, it has no space to make any movement. It has no space to escape. And when it is the grace of God, or you can use any other word. If you don't like the word God, use it. Call it source, call it universe. But it does not mean that there is a separate entity, separate, all powerful entity. It does not mean that. God means this consciousness here and now. So when that happens, it simply merges that I back to itself, to the source. Now, it does not mean it will stay there forever. And some people think that enlightenment is that. It is not the permanent emergence of the I in the source, because that is not how life is designed. The I is going to come back. But there is a difference now. Now it is dipped in the awareness, in the pure, it has tasted pure awareness. So what happens is I still live my life as I was living before, but now I'm more engaged and not more involved. That is the thing. So I don't take it too seriously. If I want to watch a football match, I watch a football match. If I want to sleep, I sleep. If I don't want to work 1 week, I take off, take holiday, and take off. Of course, people are going to question, but I'm not worried because I don't have a reputation to save because that mask is fallen. My whole identity, my whole structure is now not that strong. And for some people, that may feel scary because they're so tied up to their identification. I
Mm.
am so and so. I work in this company. I am a manager. I am a CEO. I am this, I am that. So, whenever, when we are identified with roles and anything which challenges that role or creates a dent in that structure, it creates enormous suffering.
Mm.
It makes us restless. Oh my God, what should I do? But when the mind has seen its true nature, the pure potential, the awareness, the source, once it has taken a dip into that, its nature completely changes. It doesn't feel the need to now, it still engages with the world in a very meaningful way, in a very creative way, but it is not worried about the outcome. I may not get a raise, not a problem.
Mm.
I may not, you know, things may not work out the way I plan. My children may not go abroad, or it may not happen this way or that way. Anything, there is no, there's not much concern about any of that. So there is a lightness, there is a easefulness
Mm.
in living. And that is the whole thing. Then all of these questions begin disappearing.
So for that, the effort must be there.
No, effort will not let it happen.
But
This is
then I have attention problems, right? Like now I'm here, and then later on I will watch a game, but not that I have completely the mind clings on for happiness outwards. Have a separate. Like I have a personality. I have something that you may not like it. I like it. So that is there. So for now, I say, okay, Jagjit, I will do it. I will go into a sadhana and then give me 30 minutes and then I will go back to what I was doing before. So that is again coming back. This is the
yes, it is there, but then one needs to ask as to why is this happening? Now you say, I like that personality. Why do you like that personality? What is the happiness that you are seeking? That is the question. Now, do not answer this because mind can come up with a lot of answers.
mind
This is
cheats me so much.
it is to be examined. It is to be examined, right? Where am I bonding? Where am I hooking up? Which idea am I hooking up? Now, identification by themselves are not bad. They're not evil, they're not bad. It is not that identifications are to be broken. It's just the grasping. It's just letting a little ease into life. Okay. What if I just let what if I just let it be an easy process? Okay, if my attention span is not happening that way, that means there is some rajasic thing happening within my system. What if I just let that happen? What is the worst that would happen? Yes, you may not be very productive for some time, but your mind will say, but this is how I will fail in life. I may not be able to achieve my targets, right? That is the fundamental fear. And the mind creates a very negative picture of it. But that may not happen. All of a sudden, the effort may drop, the resistance may drop at some point, which it does. And you may simply become involved in a creative process. And you may have noticed that there are days when you would just go on and on without worrying, and you don't even get to know the time. That is not effort, that is complete absorption into the work. Effort is when you are challenging, when you are fighting with
Mm.
yourself,
Mm.
right? That is what effort is. That you're forcing yourself to do a certain thing even when you don't feel like doing it that day. And your mind is telling you different stories about it. It is saying that if you don't do this, you will not do well in life. You will not be able to get this and that, your family, your parents, and this. It will just bring out the entire thing. And these are the identifications that one just needs to check, just see like what is happening. I'm not even saying change them. I'm just saying just see what is happening. Does that make any?
Yeah.
Okay. So let the observation happen. Let it be a natural process. Nothing needs to change as such. Because in any case, it is the mind that is always contemplating. So if I say, no, no, change that, Raghu, change it now, don't be easeful, then your mind will start searching for tips to be easeful. And that itself is an effort. You see? Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Welcome. Yes, Sarthak.
Namaste, Guru Bhai. How have you been? How was your
Namaste,
week?
Sarthak. Namaste. I'm fine. How are you?
It's good. Was it like too eventful or a little less eventful?
No, it is fine. It is fine.
Fine. Okay. Mine was a little less eventful this week. That's why.
Oh, how come,
Yeah.
yaar? You're always on the spot.
I guess somebody heard the call.
Okay, great, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Okay. So I picked up this book today
Uh-huh.
uh, from the book stall. It's called The Teachings of Don Juan, a Yaqui Way of Knowledge by Carlos Castaneda. So it's about like shamanism, but it's has a lot of elements of advaita to it. So I just like to read a small passage about it, which I think the viewers and the listeners might find interesting.
Sure.
So it's written in Spanish, and the translation is, for me, there is only the traveling on paths that have heart, on any path that may have heart. There I travel. And the only worthwhile challenge is to traverse its full length. And there I travel looking breathlessly.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the translation, and this is by the mystic Don Juan. And the translation of his disciple, Carlos Castaneda, is nothing more can be attempted than to establish the beginning and the direction of an infinitely long road. The road is the goal.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pretension, the pretension of any systematic and definitive completeness would be at least a self-illusion.
Yes.
Perfection can here be obtained by the individual student only in the subjective sense that he communicates everything he has been able to see.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's like, and
The
I was
road
like,
is
why did I
the
pick
road is
this?
the goal. The search for happiness is misery. The very search for happiness is misery.
Yes.
What was the first line? Yeah, just read the first line. It was
Awesome.
beautiful.
Awesome. I can take as many encores as you like. The first line is, for me, there is only the traveling on the paths that have heart, on any path that may have heart.
That's it. That's it. That is enough. Heart. Now, you know, it is all about the heart in the end. We can have all these intellectual discussions. We can spend an eternity trying to figure out things, trying to figure out paths, processes, teachings, scriptures, books, anything. But if the heart is understood, that's the end. That's then whatever happens with with this biological organism is inconsequential. And there is no attempt at any perfection. There is no attempt at trying to become or unbecome. It is just beautiful. It is a beautiful, it is what I think Ramesh called the end of seeking, because seeking is always connected to an outcome. However, I would like to create this distinction between seeking and exploration. For the human organism, the exploration is a natural thing. It will explore for the rest of its life. Till it's alive, the exploration will happen. But exploration is not connected to any outcome, to any preferred outcome. It is simply witnessing what is. That is exploration. But seeking is always tied to an outcome. But when seeking becomes effortless, that is exploration. Thank you, Sarthak. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Can you, what is the title of the book?
Oh yeah, I think you'll love this book honestly because
Mhm.
it comes from very good sources. Like I do my research well, and when it comes to, I'm a bookish guy.
Okay. What is the
So
name?
it's called so it's the author's name is Carlos Castaneda. So he was a guy who was into, so I'll share why I picked this book up first.
Okay.
So you get the context to it.
Right.
So I've always been drawn to like Native American culture. I
Mm-hmm.
used to live in Canada once upon a time, not too long ago. So I had the good fortune of visiting certain ancient like native sites, okay, from the Blackfoot tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go into the experience bit, like, but it really like moved me very deeply. Like it's a powerful way of life. The way they describe things is just it's just like on another level. It's like I can't even like get into it, but I was very moved by the experience, and that got me interested in shamanism, American shamanism specifically. So
Right. Right.
this gentleman Carlos Castaneda, I had looked it up. He looked him up earlier. He was like a student at a university, and at the same time, as he was juggling his responsibilities of like researching papers and all, he also got in touch with this mystic. His name is Don Juan. So he
Okay.
kind of like tried to make his research about both things, which is beautiful. That's what Ramdas also did, I suppose,
Okay.
where
Okay.
he kind of like integrated the academic theologian part of it
Uh,
with the real, I don't want to say supernatural, extrasensory, like mystical experiences and how they're linked. He tried to create a bridge between the two, but from personal experience,
right.
not any, not any
Right.
theoretical.
Right. 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 Exactly. That's the crux of it, you know. Personal experience is the crux of it. It's not just
So
import
can
of
I'll
whatever.
actually I think I can drop it in the chat maybe for
Yes,
other
do
people.
yes, do drop it in the chat just in
Yeah,
case if
let me
anybody
do
is
that. Yeah,
interested. You
yeah,
can.
maybe yeah. It's
All
called
right.
Carlos Castaneda Teachings of
Okay.
and
Yeah.
don't yeah, I've done it.
You've done it?
Mission
Okay.
accomplished. Yes.
Okay, great. So if anybody wants to have a look at that, you can. And I think let's take one last question, quick question from Vishal.
Thank you, Jagjot. It was more of a reflection of what Raghu was asking earlier. Is it okay if I give a short
Yes,
perspective from
yes,
my side?
please. Yeah, yeah, please go on.
So, in Kashmir Shaivism, Abhinav Gupta has talked about this beautiful thing called Ajapa Gayatri. And basically, what it is you develop this habit of fixing your attention to your breath all the time. So, as you breathe in and as you breathe out, you never lose the attention of this process of continuous breathing that is happening. So, Raghu, when you talk about attention and not able to keep attention and you're distracted all the time, this process of keeping attention to your breath first fixes your attention. That's number one. But then what do you do with that attention? You have to direct that attention to just choicelessly watch all of your patterns. This effort of wanting to put effort to bring attention is also projection, that if I do that, then I will be able to do my sadhana. Only the choiceless watching of all of this with that attention will slowly reveal all the patterns that are in you. And the more patterns you see, the grip of those patterns loosen up. And the more those patterns loosen up, you'll notice that attention is just an automatic, natural phenomenon that just happens in your life. You just start becoming more and more attentive. because the distractions are no more and that integration happens. So I have done this for almost 3 years now. Initially, with that attention, you start to analyze your pattern, which is also a thought. So you can't understand yourself with another thought. You have to understand yourself only with choiceless, intense watching. And over time, when you're settled in this attention of your breath, that quality of watching arises in you. And from that watching, when you start noticing that the patterns are loosening their grip on you, then you start to understand the process. It's all an experiential kind of journey, but just for what it's worth, it's been my
Mhm.
experience.
I mean, this is what in Buddhism they call anapanasati, which is like have this for a normal meditation. People do have this observing the breath as a normal meditation. I do that. Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi also advised for the people who cannot do self-inquiry like I mean, continuously throughout the day, they should also try to do this. Um, uh, I mean, sometimes, not sometimes, but so exactly what Jagjot was asking me the question. So, what happiness are you seeking? So that is exactly because if your target is different, then you keep on moving into okay. So I wanted to watch a game. I wanted to play cricket. I wanted to go there. Wanted to travel. So all this kind of things starts to come in. But then he says like just leave it. Just be an observer at this point, and then slowly it will start to unfold itself. So I did get that point. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vishal, for that sharing. And I would just like to conclude by saying that it will be done for you. Whatever needs to be done, it will be done for you. And it may not happen as per your preferred method. This is the understanding that whatever changes in the human pattern happen, they can happen through methods, they can happen without methods, they can happen just through the observation of life's flow. There is no one particular method for any that can be prescribed to any individual. You will have to find your own method through your own experience. It is unique to each individual. Yes, for some people, breath works, for others, mantra works. For some people, it's just the simple life and the observation of its process that works. And some people actually nothing just happens and the knowledge comes to them. I don't know why, but yes, it does happen like that too.
I was speaking with David Godman. You must know. I have met him, so I've been talking. I was asking about this question when David Godman was like 18. I mean, when he was young, he was like, I thought, okay, so I got the self-inquiry. Okay, now I'm young. I have all this energy now, so I'm gonna invest my time and I get this done. But then till now, it is not happening. So I was asking him why it is so. So there is kind of a grace that is always
Yes,
pervading
exactly.
and it chooses
Exactly.
and it happens like that, he said. He told me. And then there was also another reference given on Mahayoga book of Ramana Maharishi. So when the manonasa happens of what Bhagavan says as an Arunachala's experience, the Suksma Sarira, the mind, which he terms as the Suksma Sarira and then the Karana Sarira, causal body, both gets dissolved and then it reaches to the egoless state where Bhagavan doesn't even have a mind.
Yeah,
He simply sits as an Atma Swarupa itself.
yeah,
But that is like it was given. So
yeah,
Bhagavan was like, people say he did not do any sadhana. I mean, nothing has done. But then lots of people got enlightened just by the osmosis that he created on that place. Uneducated people, flower selling, poor ladies have got enlightened without just by their omnipresence. Uh, so there is definitely grace. So I asked also this question. So the grace is all pervading. It's always there. So what makes me unreceptive to it? Uh, so that is also one of my question in over there.
Yeah.
Um, so it takes time. It happens when it has to happen.
But yeah, yes, that is true. Uh, but I would say one thing, that the enlightenment simply reveals this information, or let's call it knowing, that this human entity comes with a fixed set of flaws, what it
Mhm,
perceives as flaws. It is not that our fundamental nature changes. It's
mhm,
just that we become okay with whatever has been given to us right now in this moment. My whole concern with my emotional states actually begins to disappear.
mhm,
That is what it may not change. Some of the so-called enlightened, although I don't like this word enlightenment, but let's just use it to explain this concept. The the instrument, let's say the mind body organism, where this understanding has happened, that there is no me and there is no doer of any actions. The only change that happens is that it becomes spontaneous, and there is a certain level of peace that is experienced. Other than that, there is no quote unquote benefit in terms of life processes. One does experience all emotions even after this understanding has happened. The sage undergoes all of the conditioning, including all emotions. It's just that no emotion sticks. The duration of the emotion sticks. So, yes, mind does perceive that as an achievement, but you see, it is just the mind's game.
mhm,
And when the grace happens, the mind dissolves into the source and understands its basic nature, which is peace. And
mhm.
then this whole concern about, why it took time or why was it not happening before, the grace was already there even before.
When Bhagavan was in that Sahaja Samadhi state, he doesn't even know there was a body existing.
Yes,
Termites started to eat, feed on his body. I
yes,
mean, the
yes,
I was there in Ramanashram where we had when he was a child. There was like they this boy could die, so they just gave some beverages or something to just to keep him alive. But he doesn't even know there was a morning, there was night or anything. There was no
yes,
body. Just termites
yes,
were eating, rats were feeding off his flesh.
yes,
One
yes,
is something it has went beyond,
yes,
and then and it remained as
yes,
atmosphere by itself throughout. There was
yes,
like if you I've been there. There was Major Chadwick. There was like Kunjuswamy. There were like Annamalai Swami. Everybody was absorbed by Arunachala. Arunachala. Say they have kept it like everywhere. British people and all these people have been associated over there. Everywhere it was the grace.
it
Grace of
is
the Lord has
true,
been.
true. Grace is surrender. Grace is total surrender to what is. And I think we will, now it's already late, so we will cover that. We'll talk about surrender and what is in our next talk. But next talk will not be on next Sunday because it's festive time. So I want you all to enjoy and relax and spend good time with your family members. So we will meet after Diwali, and the the schedule will be emailed to you or communicated on YouTube. And I wish you all I wish you all peace. A very good night to all of you, and thank you for being here. Thank you for giving your presence, and Diwali wishes to all of you. I will see you after Diwali.
Thank you very much.
Happy
Have a
Diwali and
nice
thank you,
evening.
Jackie.
Happy
For the
Diwali.
session.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Jackie. Thank you for your yin yoga session.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you.